In my previous life, at just 5 years old, I desperately rushed at a human trafficker to save my older brother Bruce, who was about to be abducted. I bit the trafficker's hand hard, but Bruce took advantage of the moment the trafficker let go in pain and ran away, leaving me behind. 20 years later, I returned to the Lincoln family. My relatives looked down on me for my low education and dark complexion, publicly claiming I was the daughter of the nanny. Bruce always stood in front of the fake heiress Hannah, glaring at me and saying, "Everything in this family belongs to Hannah, don't even think about taking what isn't yours." Later, when Hannah's eyes developed a disease, my family forcibly strapped me to an operating table and transplanted my corneas to her. In the end, I was deceived and fell from a high building, ending my tragic life. Reborn. I once again saw Bruce being dragged toward the car by the human traffickers. Bruce screamed at me with all his might, "Sister, save me." I turned and ran without a moment's hesitation. "Bruce, this time it's your turn to experience the life I lived in my past life. Sister, come save me quickly." Suddenly, a frantic cry for help reached my ears. I followed the sound and saw a child, about 5 or 6 years old, being dragged by a middle-aged woman in her 40s or 50s toward a van. I was about to step forward to save the little boy when his face became clearer and clearer before my eyes. Bruce, my own biological brother. In that instant, I realized I had been reborn, returning to the day I had longed for in my past life, the day I regretted so deeply. "Sister, come save me quickly," Bruce cried out with all his heart. The middle-aged woman immediately noticed me, looking at me with greed, planning to shove Bruce into the van and then come for me. I didn't hesitate. Turned around instantly, and ran, almost pushing myself to my limits. Just 200 meters ahead was the bustling city center. The middle-aged woman forced Bruce into the car. Seeing that I was less than 100 meters from the city center, she gritted her teeth and said to her companion, "Hurry, let's go, don't worry about this little girl anymore." I stopped in the bustling city center. Surrounded by people coming and going, I gasped for breath. Finally, having escaped the tragic fate of my previous life, I turned around and watched the van driving away, thinking to myself, "Bruce, in this life, it's your turn to experience the misery I once endured." Upon learning that Bruce had been abducted by human traffickers, my mother fainted on the spot, and my father immediately contacted the police, later offering a high reward on various platforms for any information about Bruce. I thought to myself, Bruce must have already left the province by now. In the days to come, he would likely be forced to beg every day, just as I was in my previous life. If he failed to collect the required amount, not only would he go without food, but he would also be beaten by the traffickers. It took a full day for my mother to slowly regain consciousness. When she woke, she was in tears again, holding me tightly in her arms. "Ivy, you're all I have left now." My father watched the scene from the side, his eyes also welling up with tears. I cried with self-blame, "Mom, it's all my fault for being useless. I was too scared and didn't have the courage to save my brother." Ivy is not at fault. Ivy is still so young. How could she have saved her brother? Mom is already very proud of Ivy for coming back safely. At that moment, memories from my past life surfaced in my mind. Back then, I had just returned to the Lincoln family, and my parents asked me about the situation when I was abducted. As soon as I finished speaking, my parents looked at me with suspicion, while Bruce glared at me and scolded harshly. "Ivy, stop talking nonsense. You were the one who got caught because you ran too slowly. I had to run to the busy area ahead to find adults to save you. I was only 6 years old at the time. How could I have saved you on my own? I never thought you would hold a grudge and twist the truth in front of our parents. It seems like you wish I had been abducted with you, Ivy. You have such a vicious heart." Naturally, my parents trusted Bruce, who had grown up with them, and they looked at me with disappointment. A year passed in the blink of an eye, and during that time, news of Bruce was like a stone sinking into the sea. There was no trace of him. At first, my parents waited every day with a heavy heart, hoping for news of Bruce, but as time slowly passed and disappointment followed disappointment, they finally gave up hope and let go. In my previous life, it took me a full 4 years to escape from the hands of the human traffickers. When I, only 9 years old, returned to City A after countless hardships, the Lincoln family had long since moved away, leaving their house empty. The police officer told me that the Lincoln family had immigrated overseas as a whole, and there was no way to contact them. Finally, I was sent to an orphanage, and it was there that I met Charles, the boy who cherished me as if I were his life. It wasn't until 16 years later that the Lincoln family returned to City A, but they had long forgotten their abducted daughter and didn't waste any more resources searching for me. in the end, it was actually me who recognized them while working part-time at a cafe. At that time, my parents and Hannah were drinking coffee. Hannah said something that made my parents smile with suppressed laughter. I was just serving dessert to the table behind them and happened to glance over, with just one look. I froze. This was the encounter that had appeared countless times in my dreams in my past life. Even after 20 years, my parents' faces had hardly changed. A few barely noticeable wrinkles had appeared at the corners of my mother's eyes, while my father remained as dashing as ever. I walked toward them with trembling steps. "Dad, Mom," my voice choked with emotion. My parents were stunned for a moment. Then their faces clouded with displeasure. "Little girl, you've got the wrong person." Father spoke coldly. Hannah, however, gave me a hard shove. "Who are you? What are you shouting about here?" I didn't notice and was pushed to the ground, hitting my forehead on the nearby table, and blood instantly started to flow. "Dad, Mom, it's me, Ivy." Ignoring the injury on my forehead, I quickly spoke up to explain. My parents finally remembered their daughter, who had been missing for 20 years. At that moment, "Are you Ivy?" Mother's voice trembled a little as she carefully helped me up, scrutinized me closely, and then pulled me into a tight embrace. "My Ivy, you've suffered so much all these years. My poor daughter. Dad, Mom, I've missed you so much, every single day." With tears streaming down my face, I poured out my longing. At that moment, my father stumbled toward my mother and me, wrapping us both in his arms. "Ivy, my dear daughter. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. Mom and Dad will treat you twice as well from now on." Hannah, however, looked displeased at the scene. She strode forward, pulled me out of my parents' embrace, and asked with reddened eyes, "Dad, Mom, now that you've found my sister, do you not love me anymore?" "How could that be? Hannah will always be Mom and Dad's most beloved treasure." Mom quickly hugged Hannah to comfort her, and Hannah, nestled in her mother's arms, gave me a smug glance. "Hannah, don't be sad. Mom and Dad promise you, our love for you will never diminish in the slightest." Father also comforted her from the side. Watching the three of them snuggled closely together, my heart felt as if it were being crushed by a massive rock. After 20 years apart, Hannah managed to divert our parents' attention to herself with just one sentence. I had imagined countless scenarios of our reunion, but I had never anticipated this one. That afternoon, I returned to the apartment I shared with Charles, packed my bags, and prepared to go to the Lincoln family's home. "Charles, I'm going back to the Lincoln family. Don't worry, Mom and Dad love me very much. I'm sure I'll be very happy there. From now on, make sure to eat well, sleep well, and take good care of yourself. I'll come back to visit you often," I said to Charles. Charles was curled up in his chair, his back turned to me. Without turning around, he just looked out the window and said indifferently, "The burden is finally gone. From today on, I'm free. I'm going to celebrate properly in a bit, so I won't see you off." I can still clearly remember how full of hope I looked back then. So foolish. I finally returned to the Lincoln family and stepped into hell. When I returned to the Lincoln house with all my luggage in tow, Hannah immediately stepped forward, took my hand, and said, "Sister, how come you carried all this luggage by yourself without asking someone to help? Mom and Dad have already arranged for the servants to tidy up your room. From now on, just treat this place as your own home." I looked at her with a bit of surprise. This has always been my home. I looked at my parents, who were taken aback for a moment but did not refute. At that moment, Bruce slowly walked down from upstairs. He was wearing a casual Armani men's outfit, tall and well-built. With his hair meticulously styled, he looked very refined and elegant. He came up to me and gave me a once-over. "Are you Ivy, brother?" I spoke with a bit of timidity. Bruce, however, frowned at my address, and then, as if he had caught a whiff of something foul, he suddenly covered his nose. "Ivy, why do you have a strange smell on you? How many days has it been since you last showered? How disgusting." My face instantly turned pale, and I immediately lowered my head, looking at my slightly faded t-shirt and jeans. "No, I've already taken a shower. I showered before coming to Lincoln's house," I murmured in my heart but didn't say it out loud. The next day, as soon as my parents left for the company, Hannah almost immediately showed her true colors. "Brother, look how dark she is. Doesn't she look like she's from Africa?" Hannah leaned against Bruce, looking at me with disdain. Bruce also glanced at me with disgust. "From now on, you are not allowed to say you are a daughter of the Lincoln family outside, and you are definitely not allowed to say you are my sister." I stood frozen in place, staring at them in a daze. "Then, brother, if someone asks who she is, what should we say?" Hannah asked playfully. "Just say she's the daughter of our housekeeper. Will Mom and Dad agree? I'll talk to Mom and Dad. The Lincoln family can't afford to lose face like this. Hannah and Bruce were discussing it among themselves. And my heart slowly grew cold. What made it even colder was that my parents came to talk to me about it that very night. That night, my mother looked at me, hesitating to speak. My father had to carefully choose his words to begin. Ivy, you know, the Lin Group is a major international corporation. Any negative news could have a significant impact on it. If the public were to find out that the Lin family's heiress only has a high school diploma, it would greatly affect Lin Group's stock price. After a pause, Father continued, moreover, the public currently believes that Hannah is the only heiress. If a new heiress suddenly appears, I'm afraid some people might investigate Hannah's background. If it were discovered that Hannah is only an adopted daughter of the Lin family, it would cause her great harm. So, Dad thinks it's best not to reveal your true identity to the public for now. After you finish university, we will hold a homecoming banquet for you, Dad. If someone asks about my identity, I spoke with a last glimmer of hope, then you say, you are the daughter of the nanny, Lucy. Dad's answer seemed a bit difficult, but he didn't hesitate. I stared at them blankly. They were afraid that if Hannah's identity as an adopted daughter got out, it would hurt her, so they made their own biological daughter pretend to be the housekeeper's child. They weren't even willing to tell outsiders that I was a distant relative's daughter. In their eyes, perhaps having even a trace of blood relation with someone like me was a disgrace. Okay, I closed my eyes and agreed. After this incident, Hannah and Bruce seemed to have tested our parents' attitude toward me, and the days that followed became even more difficult. They would always assign some of the housekeeper's tasks to me, as if I had truly become the housekeeper's daughter. Even in front of our parents, they made no attempt to hide it. Hannah would always speak up boldly, Sister, Lucy hasn't been feeling well these past few days. Could you take out the trash from the villa? It's just a small favor. I'm sure you won't refuse, right, Sister? Lucy accidentally cut her hand, so I'll have to trouble you to wash all the dishes in the kitchen tonight. Sister, there are other aunts in the villa, yet she doesn't hesitate to make me do it. Bruce often finds disgusting tasks for me to do as well. Ivy, the toilet in my room is clogged. Go and unclog it for me. You've lived on your own for so many years, so you should have mastered these basic skills by now. Ivy, dog accidentally had an accident on the second-floor stairs. Go take care of it. Ivy, my obedience did not earn their mercy. Instead, they intensified their actions, which eventually escalated into bullying against me. That was 1 month after I returned to the Lincoln family. That morning, I was just going downstairs to eat as usual when I heard rapid footsteps behind me. Before I could even turn around, I was kicked down the stairs. That kick was very forceful. I was first sent stumbling forward, then tumbled down the stairs from the first floor. As I looked up the stairs, my head covered in blood and enduring excruciating pain, I saw Hannah elegantly resting one hand on Bruce's shoulder, looking at me with a mocking expression, while Bruce was filled with anger. You wretch, how dare you walk in front of me and Hannah, covered in injuries. I told my parents about the incident. Hannah, however, stood by with a look of disbelief on her face. Sister, how could you falsely accuse brother? I clearly saw that you accidentally missed a step and fell down the stairs yourself. I turned to look at my parents, but their words felt like a knife piercing my heart. Ivy, Hannah and Bruce grew up with us since they were little, and they've always been kind and generous children. Ivy, I know you've had a hard life these years, but your suffering wasn't caused by Bruce and Hannah. You can't just falsely accuse them like that. The blood from my forehead slowly trickled down, flowing into my eyes, mixing with my tears, and turning into a drop of bloody tears that fell. What's laughable is that even at this point, I still held on to illusions about my parents. I thought that maybe if I behaved better, if I tried harder, if I were more obedient to Bruce and Hannah, they would love me. Just a little, just a tiny bit of love would be enough. It wasn't until Hannah developed a corneal disease and needed a transplant that my illusions were completely shattered. That evening at dinner, the atmosphere in the villa was particularly oppressive. I ate my food in small bites, not daring to make a sound. Hannah's eyes were red. Ever since the test results came out in the afternoon, it had taken my parents hours to barely calm her down. Mom and Dad, will I suddenly lose my sight? Hannah's voice was trembling with tears. How could that be? Dad has already spoken with the hospital director. As soon as a suitable cornea becomes available, the director will contact us first. Dad put down his chopsticks and comforted her patiently. But those are corneas from the dead. I don't want them. The thought of having a dead person's eyes makes me sick. Hannah, don't cry. The doctor said crying will speed up the deterioration of your eyes. Mom also comforted her from the side. Just then, Bruce seemed to notice me. He carefully examined my eyes. "Ivy, I never expected that. Although you're not much to look at, you do have a nice pair of eyes." This sudden compliment sent a chill down my spine. Hannah also turned to look, her gaze fixed on my eyes as if they were her own possessions. "Dad. Mom, why don't you just transplant my sister's corneas to me? When the hospital has a suitable pair later, you can give them back to her. It's the same thing, isn't it?" Hannah ran to her parents, held their hands, and coquettishly pleaded. I looked at my parents with a nervous expression. "How can this be? Ivy is our daughter too, and if we give it to you, won't Ivy be unable to see as well?" Mom and Dad actually refused. This is the first time in the 3 months since I returned to the Lincoln family that my parents have refused Hannah. This time, I felt that all the grievances I had endured over the past 3 months were worth it. With tears in my eyes, I looked at my parents, my gaze filled with gratitude and emotion, but this feeling of being moved lasted only 2 days. That evening, Hannah went on a hunger strike in protest, locking herself in her room and refusing to see anyone, for the past 2 days. Her parents and Bruce spent most of their time at Hannah's door, comforting and persuading her. After 2 days of Hannah's hunger strike, Bruce finally lost his patience. He yelled at his parents, "Are Ivy's 2 eyes more important than Hannah's life?" In the end, the parents gave in and came to my room with Bruce. "Ivy, Hannah has locked herself in her room and hasn't eaten or drunk anything for 2 days. You have to save her." At this moment, my heart finally turned cold. It became utterly icy, and it would no longer yearn for my parents' love. I took 2 steps back, my expression turning completely indifferent. "Dad, Mom, I'm sorry, but I can't agree to your request. I've troubled you during this time, and I'll return to where I belong. Thank you for your care in the past. Let's just pretend we never met, and there's no need for us to see each other again." Seeing my detached demeanor, my parents seemed to have some regrets. But Bruce grabbed my hand firmly. "Want to leave? If you go, what will happen to Hannah's eyes? Your life was given by your parents. If you want to leave, give your eyes to Hannah before you go, as a way to repay your parents' kindness. Bruce, she is your sister." The parents were about to speak to stop Bruce, but he cut them off directly. "Dad, Mom, I can't care about that anymore. Hannah hasn't eaten or drunk for 2 days. If this continues, she will die." Upon hearing this, the parents immediately fell into hesitation. After a long while, they let out a deep sigh. "Ivy, Mom and Dad are sorry for this. Don't worry, as soon as the hospital has a suitable cornea, we will have it replaced for you right away. You will regain your sight very soon. It won't be a long wait." After my parents agreed, Bruce tied up my hands and feet and locked me in the room. When my parents and Bruce told Hannah about this, Hannah also came to my room. The moment I saw Hannah, I smiled. Is this the state someone who has been on a hunger strike for 2 days should be in? Her face was rosy and glowing, full of energy. My parents, with pained expressions, gently stroked Hannah's face. "You've lost weight. Don't harm your body like this again. Everything can be discussed." The surgery was scheduled quickly. As I was strapped to the operating table, about to be wheeled into the operating room, Bruce looked down at me from above. "Ivy, it's your fortune that Hannah can have your eyes. Bruce, I'll leave this blessing to you. I really regret saving you, you beast." A flicker of guilt flashed in Bruce's eyes, but it was quickly concealed, soon replaced by a trace of malice. When I woke up again, everything before my eyes had turned into nothingness. At this moment, I missed Charles so much, so very much, but I can never see him again. On the 3rd day after the surgery, my parents finally came to see me. Of course, these 3 days, they had been by the side of their precious daughter, Hannah. They chattered incessantly by my ear, saying they would treat me well from now on and that they would find a cornea for me as soon as possible. I turned my head toward the sound of their voices and said to them, "No need, I want to go home. Could you please help me contact Charles, ask him to take me back?" My phone had long been taken by Bruce when they decided to transplant my corneas to Hannah. "This is your home," Mother said in a trembling voice. I didn't say anything more. In the end, my parents gave in and contacted Charles using my phone. That day, Hannah and Bruce came to my room. "Sister, thank you for your eyes." I remained silent. "Charles is already here. Let's go. Don't linger here any longer." Bruce spoke coldly. The nanny, Lucy, stepped forward to help me up and led me all the way into the elevator. As soon as we stepped out of the elevator, Lucy let go of me. Mr. Charles is just ahead. Your brother Charles is waiting for you up ahead." Bruce laughed beside me. I fumbled forward, thinking that just ahead was Charles, the one I had relied on for over a decade. the only person in this world who loved me, and I showed a long-lost smile. The next second, a feeling of weightlessness came over me. I felt as if I had stepped into empty air, as if I were falling into an abyss. I don't know how long it lasted, maybe just a few seconds, maybe a few minutes. It seemed like the end of my life, and my mind was unusually clear. I was fully aware that I was falling from a building, but I couldn't see. I didn't know when I would hit the ground. My memories played back in my mind. Childhood recollections were already hazy, and the only clear ones were the years Charles and I supported each other. Finally, I felt my body crash heavily onto the ground. And I felt as if I had been shattered to pieces. In my final moments, I seemed to hear Charles's voice, "Ivy," so sorrowful, so enraged, so powerless. At the end of my life, it felt as if I had regained my sight. I saw Charles holding me, trembling as he caressed my face, tears streaming down his cheeks. He seemed to be trying to wake me, but no matter how hard he tried, he could only let out a hoarse, faint sound. I saw Bruce standing on the rooftop, watching Charles and me with a malicious smile. I saw my mother covering her mouth, weeping in my father's embrace, and noticed a trace of reluctance on my father's face. So, I had died. It was just my soul drifting away. I looked at Charles. I wanted to reach out and touch him, but my hand passed right through his face. I could no longer touch my boy. After a long while, Charles looked up at Bruce and Hannah on the top floor, his eyes filled with overwhelming hatred and murderous intent. The next second, my soul drifted far away. I gathered my thoughts and calculated the time. In 1 month, it would be the day Charles was sent to the orphanage in the northern part of the city, but I didn't expect that the one I would meet earlier would be Hannah. That day, my parents and I had just finished lunch. The butler, David, said to my father, "Chairman, there's a little girl outside asking for you. She says it's something very important." My father looked puzzled but still said, "Bring her in." Subsequently, the butler David led in a little girl about 6 or 7 years old. The little girl was wearing a white princess dress, following obediently behind butler David, occasionally sneaking glances at the villa's decorations, a glimmer of excitement shining in her eyes. Sitting on the sofa, I looked at the little girl's somewhat familiar face and, after a while, finally recognized her. It was actually her, Hannah, in my previous life. Hannah was adopted by the Lincoln family only in the 2nd year after I was abducted. Her early arrival in this life. Could it be that she has also been reborn? That's really great. Hannah was brought by the butler David to my father, unexpectedly. As soon as Hannah saw my father, she knelt down directly and said, "Uncle Lynn, hello, my name is Hannah, I'm an orphan from the orphanage. I heard that your daughter was kidnapped by human traffickers. I lost my father when I was young. And ever since I saw you last time, I've always felt that you are exactly the father figure I've imagined in my heart. Could you adopt me? I promise to study hard and repay you in the future." I almost couldn't hold back my laughter. At that moment, my father's face turned ashen. Ever since Bruce went missing, he had already regarded me as his only hope, wishing he could watch over me day and night. Now, suddenly, an unfamiliar girl showed up, cursing his only remaining daughter as kidnapped and even declaring that she wanted to be his daughter. Butler David, throw her out. Hearing this, Hannah was taken aback. "Dad, I am your most beloved daughter. Why are you trying to push me away? Who is your dad? Why are you randomly claiming kinship?" "Child," Hannah immediately turned teary-eyed to look at her mother, whose expression was no better than her father's. Butler David, hurry up and take the person out. Mother also spoke coldly. I almost burst out laughing beside them, my smile harder to suppress than an AK, as Hannah's brain also reverted to that of a 6-year-old. Butler David pulled Hannah to drive her out of the family. Hannah struggled desperately, and it was only then that she noticed me sitting on the nearby sofa. "Ivy, you wretch, why are you still here? Weren't you kidnapped long ago? Where is brother Bruce?" Hannah shouted at me. Now, she can forget about ever setting foot in the Lincoln family's house again. I pretended to be terrified and threw myself into my mother's arms. "Mom, I'm scared." "Ivy, don't be afraid. Mom is here, and I won't let anyone hurt you. Dad will protect you too." Hannah watched this scene with eyes wide in shock. After all, in her previous life, she was the daughter they loved the most. Hannah was eventually pulled out of the villa by the butler David, and the door slammed shut with a heavy thud. Hannah cried out heart-wrenchingly outside the villa, "Mom, Dad, I'm Hannah, your most beloved daughter. Have you all forgotten? Mom, Dad, didn't you say you would protect me for a lifetime? Mom and Dad, I want to go home. Life in the orphanage is so hard, I can't stay there for even one more day." Father rubbed his temples and instructed the butler, David, notify the security guards in the community to have her taken away. Also, tell them not to let this madwoman in again in the future." Within minutes, Hannah was taken away by the security guards. And the villa finally returned to peace. I seized the opportunity to suggest to my parents, Mom and Dad, "Can we adopt an older brother? I miss having a brother." In the past, whenever other kids bullied me, it was always my brother who protected me. My parents naturally agreed. A month later, a Maybach drove into the North City orphanage. I silently thought to myself, "Charles, I'm here to take you home." As soon as my parents and I entered the orphanage, we were immediately surrounded by the children there. They all opened their innocent, wide eyes, trying their best to appear pitiful and harmless. After all, the director had already told them that the chairman of the Lin Group would be coming today to adopt a child. The Lin Group is a leading enterprise in City A, and my parents are also well-known figures on the wealth list, so naturally, the children were eager to be adopted. My gaze pierced through the crowd and caught sight of Charles hiding in the back corner. He was crouched against the wall, head bowed, his expression unclear. At this time, Charles must have just been abandoned by his uncle. Charles's parents died in a car accident when he was 5, and his uncle, in order to seize his parents' inheritance, became his guardian. 2 years later, his uncle took the huge inheritance and moved his entire family abroad, leaving Charles at the doorstep of an orphanage. In my previous life, I met Charles 3 years later. At that time, he was also quietly crouched in a corner, his face covered in bruises, but his eyes were completely blank. I later learned that because of his good looks, he had aroused the jealousy of other children in the orphanage. As soon as he was sent there, he was bullied by the orphanage's cliques. In the 3 years since he had been sent to the orphanage, there was hardly a day when he wasn't injured. Later, I also became one of the bullied. We gradually got to know each other and, in countless dark nights, licked each other's wounds like injured beasts. Charles and I never fought back because we knew that if we did, the bullying would only get worse, until one time, I was beaten to the brink of death, and I can still vividly remember the despair I felt at that moment. I had already collapsed on the ground, my consciousness fading, but they showed no mercy. They kicked me in the face over and over, as if I were a soccer ball. When Charles found me, I was lying motionless on the ground like a broken doll. My face was almost completely disfigured, my eyes swollen like steamed buns, and blood kept gushing from my eyes, nose, and mouth. Charles was too terrified to approach. He knelt helplessly on the ground, staring blankly at me lying in a pool of blood. By the time I was discharged from the hospital and returned to the orphanage, a month had already passed, but by then, Charles had been expelled. While I was being rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment, he had taken a sharp branch and, in the dead of night, blinded 2 of the bullies. When the director arrived, he was covered in blood, clutching that branch, chasing after the remaining bullies. He looked like a demon risen from hell. After learning about this, I knelt and begged the director, "Dean, he's only 11 years old, he can't survive on his own, please, let him come back." The dean remained unmoved. A day later, on a rainy day, I found Charles under a bridge. "Is there room for one more person here?" I asked. "Fool, why did you come out?" I warned them. "They won't dare to bully you again." From then on, Charles and I began 15 years of relying on each other for survival. I looked at the 7-year-old Charles before me, at his clean, unblemished face. It's wonderful, in this lifetime, my boy hasn't suffered those hardships yet. I squeezed through the crowd and walked straight up to Charles. "Hello, can you be my brother?" Charles looked up and saw an extremely adorable little girl's face, fair and tender, especially her eyes, which sparkled like stars. He stared blankly, forgetting to respond. I turned to my parents and said, "Mom and Dad, I like this brother. Can we adopt him?" Charles had an exceptionally handsome appearance and seemed very well behaved. His parents immediately agreed and completed the paperwork that very afternoon, bringing Charles home. When Charles first arrived at the Lincoln household, he was extremely reserved and always appeared lost and unsure. With my companionship and encouragement, he gradually grew more confident, just as in the previous life. The focus of my father's company gradually shifted overseas. A year and a half later, my parents decided to take me and Charles and immigrate to Italy. On the very day of our departure, Hannah showed up again. Over the past year and a half, Hannah had become almost obsessed, spending all her free time lurking at the entrance of our neighborhood. Every time she saw my father or mother, she would run toward them like a madwoman, begging them to adopt her, but each time, she was stopped by my father's assistant or bodyguard. My parents didn't even spare her a glance. treating her as if she were insane. Later, Hannah found out that Charles had been adopted by my family. She actually went to wait for him at the entrance of our neighborhood. When she saw Charles walking out, she pulled out a small knife and charged at him. Fortunately, Uncle Chen, the driver, stopped her. She looked completely insane at that moment, constantly shouting, "My parents were supposed to adopt me. It's all because of you, you wretch. Why did you take what was mine? Why did you steal my life? Why?" It said that Charles was completely stunned at the time. Although Hannah was later taken to the police station, she was too young to be sentenced. After being reprimanded and educated, she was released the same day. However, this incident frightened her parents greatly, and her father immediately arranged for bodyguards for everyone in the family. Today, Hannah seemed to be running a bit late. The family's luggage had already been loaded into the cars by the driver, 6 sedans in total. It was only then that Hannah finally arrived. Seeing that the luggage had been loaded and they were about to depart, her parents turned and noticed Hannah sprinting toward them. They immediately felt a sense of foreboding and hurriedly got into the car. The car started moving, but Hannah still refused to give up. She chased after it with all her might, shouting loudly, "Dad, Mom, don't leave me behind. Dad, Mom, how can I live without you? Dad, Mom, take me with you." I turned around and looked through the rear window of the car at Hannah, who was desperately chasing after us. This scene seems somewhat familiar. "Is that you, you silly goose?" "Hannah, don't worry, we will meet again." Time flies so fast, and in the blink of an eye, 20 years have passed. Our family has returned to City A. Upon returning to City A, the Lincoln family's status had already risen significantly, and we purchased the largest and most luxurious estate in the city. This estate is situated by the sea, covering a vast area of 180,000 square meters. To the east of the estate is a helicopter landing pad, while a massive artificial lake has been constructed to the north. The estate is equipped with a variety of recreational facilities, including a swimming pool, a bar, and a cinema. Everything one could desire. The main building of the estate is a 5-story structure, occupying a total area of 2,500 square meters, designed in the Venetian Byzantine style. From a distance, it resembles a white medieval palace. At 3 in the afternoon, the sun had passed its peak heat, casting golden sunlight across the estate. In the backyard of the estate, I was swinging barefoot out of boredom, with occasional sea breezes bringing a touch of coolness. At this moment, my thoughts were preoccupied with Bruce and Hannah. I wonder where Hannah and Bruce have been living these past 20 years. Was it a drafty bridge underpass or a dim, damp basement? At this thought, the corners of my mouth lifted slightly. Charles also walked into the backyard at that moment and happened to witness this scene. Under the sunlight, the girl closed her eyes, swinging on the swing. Her flawless face was dazzlingly fair, and her delicate, pale little feet swayed in the air, perhaps recalling something joyful. A faint smile graced her face. Such a smile, adorning the girl's exquisitely beautiful face, seemed too perfect to belong to this world. The young man was utterly captivated. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I saved the girl who was being forced on the train. But a week later, she turned around and accused me of being the one who forced her. I was taken away by the police and lost my chance to enter the police academy. It was even recorded and posted online, and even my father, a martyr, was insulted, forced into a corner. My mother left a suicide note and killed herself by crashing into my father's grave. Due to insufficient evidence, I was acquitted and released, but with my family destroyed and nowhere to go. I found the girl and asked her why she had framed me. She replied, "He's the crown prince of the capital's elite circle. It was just a momentary whim at the time. He likes me, so I won't have to worry about food and clothing in the future. You're blocking my path. Don't you think that's immoral?" After saying this, the young master of the capital's elite circle wrapped his arm around her. "What does it matter if you're a police academy candidate? You've still become a dog under my feet." His subordinates swarmed in, and I instantly lost consciousness. The moment I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day I saved her. This time, I chose to turn a blind eye. "Get away. Who are you? This is on a train. If you keep this up, I'll call the attendant." The bed was shaking, and I woke up in a daze. The bed frame above my head was swaying wildly. On the opposite window, a chaotic scene was reflected. A man was stepping on the bedpost with one foot, grabbing a girl, in the darkness. It was nerve-wracking. Cold sweat broke out on my forehead as I closed my eyes and recalled the scene from moments ago. Under the covers, I pinched my thigh hard. It hurt. I had actually been reborn at the starting point of everything. In my previous life, everything that happened on the train kept replaying in my mind. I was a preparatory police academy student, on my way to report to the school, faced with the criminal, driven by a surge of adrenaline. I swiftly climbed onto the upper bunk and kicked him down. The man groaned in pain after being kicked to the ground, but quickly realized his cover was blown and vanished into the night. She was shivering, but still got up to thank me. A sense of honor welled up inside me, and I told her to inform the train police, as catching the criminal was the best way to protect herself. I also described the suspect's features to her. After starting school, I told my classmates about this incident. Everyone says I'm a qualified police academy student, and my dorm even held an honorary party for me, but I never expected that this act of justice would lead to the destruction of my family. A week later, while I was in class, she burst through the door, screaming hysterically that I had assaulted her. She also claimed that after being rescued, I secretly followed her and threatened to post indecent photos of her online if she reported it to the train police. She broke down in tears, saying that she had no other choice and only now found the courage to speak out to prevent others from being harmed. She pointed at my nose and yelled, "You beast, violating me once wasn't enough, and now you want to threaten me into submission." I stood there frozen like a wooden stake. I was taken away on the spot and detained. My roommate, who made me proud, was scolded like a dog. The students at school were so angry that they posted the video online. Police academy student forces a girl on the train. With this double whammy, I was directly labeled as a repeat offender. Rumors spread that I had taken upskirt photos of girls when I was young, and witnesses came forward to speak out. My father was also exposed, accused of not having truly sacrificed himself but rather faking his death for the compensation. The situation escalated too quickly, and the school had no choice but to remove me as quickly as possible, expelling me to protect their reputation. Years of my hard work in school were wasted, and I became a social outcast, despised by everyone. My mother believed I hadn't done such a thing, but she had no power or influence and couldn't find any evidence, only able to leave a suicide note. I crashed to death in front of my father's grave. After the martyr's family member committed suicide and the martyr was insulted, this matter finally received attention. A special task force was formed, and the best legal team came to see me. In the end, they successfully cleared my name, but my mother won't come back to life, and my future is gone. Even if it's announced that I'm innocent, no one believes it. They think it was my supposedly dead father pulling strings behind the scenes. I wear a mask to cover my face while delivering food at the hotel. I never expected that day to be this girl's wedding. In the photo, she was smiling brightly, holding onto a man's arm, and her groom was the uncle who had threatened her. I couldn't accept it, so I rushed into her dressing room and demanded to know why she had framed me. She looked at me with an innocent expression, as if she had never known someone like me. Eventually, after I kept reminding her, she remembered. She rolled her eyes and said impatiently, "He's the crown prince of the Beijing circle. It was just a momentary whim back then. He likes me. I won't have to worry about food or clothing in the future. You're blocking my path. Don't you think that's immoral?" After saying this, the crown prince of the Beijing circle suddenly appeared, wrapped his arm around her, and sneered at me. "So what if you're a police academy candidate? You're still nothing but a dog under my feet." His men swarmed in, and I lost consciousness in an instant. So, in the eyes of others, my sense of justice is seen as immoral. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the train. I opened my eyes but ultimately chose to close them again, picking up my earplugs and putting them in. Louder and louder cries for help, yet I couldn't hear a thing. Anyway, she liked it, didn't she? The morning light flashed, and shadowy figures appeared before my eyes. The flight attendant shook me awake. Sir, did you hear any sounds last night?" I took the earplugs out of my ears and asked, "What did you say?" Seeing this, the flight attendant shook her head helplessly and walked away. In my previous life, I told her to find the flight police, but she didn't go and even accused me of threatening to stop her. I won't go out of my way to help her in this life. Arrived at school safely, I can't wait to rush into the dormitory. This is the person who believed in me the most at the time, besides my mom. They gathered evidence for me, helped me navigate through various places, and finally introduced me to a job after I was released. What's wrong? Is the silly girl here? We have a dorm group chat, although we hadn't met at the time. My name is Colin, and they gave me the nickname, Silly Girl. In my previous life, I would have fought back, but now I just feel a sourness at the corner of my mouth and can't say a word. All right, we have military training tomorrow. Don't just stand there spacing out, go pack your bags. The dorm leader is still the warm, motherly type who loves to nag. I made it through the week safely, thinking that in this life, I would peacefully make it to graduation and never have anything to do with her again, but I was still too naive. Just like in my previous life, I was in the middle of class when she burst through the door, stood in front of me, and broke down in tears. You beast. Violating me once wasn't enough, now you're trying to force me to submit. I'm speechless. It's not that I want to attack her, but have you even looked at yourself? Why would I violate you? I muttered to myself. We're just two people who happened to be in the same train bunk with our clothes on. There were so many people on the train. Why are you singling me out just because I was the closest to you? I looked at her innocently. Hello. Who are you? Have we met before? You're lying. You assaulted me on the train and thought you could get away with it just because I didn't know you. I won't let other girls suffer the same way I did. Her righteous and indignant demeanor almost moved me to tears. The classmates around me all took out their phones and started recording. I ignored her completely and continued taking notes. Seeing this, she slapped me across the face and grabbed me by the collar to pull me up. I found it utterly baffling and could no longer suppress my anger. An elbow strike forced her to let go, followed by a kick that sent her tumbling to the ground. She froze, lying on the ground motionless for a moment. I stepped closer and warned her, I've made it very clear, I've never even seen you before, and you slapped me out of nowhere. This is just self-defense. I deliberately held back my strength, making sure she felt the pain without getting seriously injured and trying to pin it on me. Of course I know her, but that was in a past life. In this life, I'm just being realistic. Jenny lay on the ground and began to wail, help, a police academy student is hitting me, you've ruined my reputation and now you're beating me up. Are you trying to divert attention? Is this what a future police officer is like? Is this the quality of our people's police? Sob, sob. If that's the case, I request an investigation into Colin's police qualifications. We can't let someone like him hold power. Chapter 4, she roared, grabbing my pant leg. Not at all like someone who had been hit, but rather extremely excited. I shook off her hand. What's wrong with you? Are you delusional? You see a man and say he ruined your innocence. Do you want me to call an ambulance for you? I took out my phone and dialed 911. She immediately jumped up and slapped my phone out of my hand. Colin, stop pretending. Even if I die, I'll make sure you're brought to justice. She lunged at me with disheveled hair. I dodged to the side. Brought to justice. What are you talking about? I still don't understand why you're targeting me from the start. You should go to the hospital first. How ridiculous, risking your life and saying I'm pretending. No one's more of a pretender than you. After learning the identity of the person who forced you, I immediately found a scapegoat for him. In that carriage, there were only her and me. Without a second thought, I was easily targeted by them. You may have gained wealth and honor, but my mother died in humiliation. My father was a hero who saved lives, giving everything he had for the country without holding back, and ultimately died protecting the people. Yet, because of such people, his name has been tarnished. I have absolutely no sympathy for her. People like her are ungrateful and would not hesitate to destroy an innocent person's future for their own selfish desires. The news spread like the wind, and soon, the school principal arrived. She walked in a hurry and immediately restrained both me and Jenny. This is a school. What kind of behavior is fighting? In my previous life, the director was also the first to arrive. I frantically tried to explain to her, but she immediately punished me. She said Jenny is a weak woman who definitely wouldn't lie, and that I must have done something bad to make her break down. It was her bias toward Jenny that made me be wronged even more thoroughly. Her words were posted online, and all the netizens believed them. Even the school principal said it was my fault, so it must be true. All my explanations were seen as excuses. She even quickly fired me and kicked me out of the school. By the time the school found out, I was already nowhere to be found. Recalling the actions of this director in my past life, my chest was filled with rage. The next second, I heard her say, Colin, was it you who bullied that girl? Look at you, she even came to the school to find you. I always said you men are unreliable, pulling up your pants and pretending nothing happened. Chapter 5, Jenny stood behind the director, raising her eyebrows smugly. The director grabbed my ear and said, come with me, to my office. Jenny immediately chimed in, your director really knows what's right. Go to the office now and sort this out properly. Once I went, I would never come back. The director would immediately kick me out, as if they had it all planned out. Come to think of it, in our previous life, our class advisor didn't show up. Instead, it was the director who came. Isn't that strange? I can't help but suspect that this director is in cahoots with the Beijing Circle's young master behind Jenny. The roommates immediately gathered around. Director, we are his roommates, we are also responsible for this matter, we'll go together. The dorm leader was observant. He noticed that I looked unwell and made an excuse. I smiled bitterly to myself. But he didn't know that the Beijing Circle's crown prince had immense power. If they went too, the entire dorm would be doomed. Thinking of this, I had no choice but to confront the director. I didn't do anything wrong, but the director immediately accused me without even asking for my side of the story. What about my innocence? Does she have it, but I don't? Or have you all already conspired and were just waiting for me to fall into the trap? If I leave now, won't I never be able to come back? In front of everyone, my gaze swept across each phone camera, making sure everything was being recorded. The director guiltily let go of my ear but still insisted on arguing. You refuse to go, then just wait to be dealt with. She made a harsh statement and left with Jenny. The matter was temporarily over, just when I thought they had no evidence and couldn't do anything to me. On the following night, the police showed up. This time, it wasn't in public, but they barged into the dormitory, trying to take me away directly. The director took the lead, stepping forward. Jenny, look, is it him? She had her nose in the air, like a righteous angel. I stared at the police officer who introduced himself. These two didn't look like police at all. Walking without a hint of integrity, not even a single identifying mark on him, he just threw on a jacket, casually holding handcuffs, and came to arrest me. I poked the dorm leader, signaling him to call the police quickly. Jenny sobbed and trembled as she pointed at me. It's him, I confronted him yesterday, but he denied it. At first, I intended to find the train police, but he said he took my photo and threatened to post it online if I didn't obey. I don't want to live anymore. Woo woo woo. The entire dormitory building was lit up, and the crowd gathered around watched her cry pitifully. Police Academy students are naturally passionate and full of righteous indignation. If I hadn't met Jenny in my past life, I might have been one of them too, being played for a fool. Someone in the crowd yelled at me, Colin, are you even a man? You don't dare admit what you've done. Look at what he said. You'd think he was right there on the scene. I pushed aside my roommate who was blocking my way and stepped forward. You say I did it, so I did it. We're Police Academy students, and we might become police officers in the future. I sneered and pointed at Jenny. Just because of her few words and a few tears, you can decide she's the victim. Who knows how many people will suffer injustice and be harmed by you in the future because of tears. I intimidated everyone with just a few words. Police Academy students are passionate. Once in college, everyone gets exposed to the field of criminal investigation. Once you calm down a bit, you can sense that something is off. I've already heard someone quietly muttering, yes, we need evidence to handle a case. You can't convict someone with just a few words. Jenny became frantic upon hearing this. The director roared, shut up. He even had 2 police officers apprehend me, pinning me against the door for everyone to see. Director, are you sure you want to do this? I've already called the police. I spoke coldly, sneering at them. As soon as Jenny heard that I had called the police, she stared at me in shock. You called the police? Isn't that the thief crying, stop thief? The police are here, and when everyone arrives, let's see where you can run. The director's face darkened. She knew these two were nothing but paper tigers they had called in, all show and no substance. Jenny clearly values her innocence so much that she would come to the school to find someone, even if she doesn't know me. She didn't hesitate to call the police, showing no fear of her reputation being ruined. Those who don't know her might think she's brave, but I, who know her well, find it disgusting. The chief snatched my phone away. Unlock it. You're wasting police resources. You're not qualified to be a police academy student. She's getting frantic. I'm not foolish enough to unlock it. Even if I did, there would be no record of my call to the police. As we were arguing, the sound of a police siren rang out. It's quite amusing that even in a police academy, they still resort to calling the police to handle things. Seeing the stern-faced person in a police uniform, I knew I had bet correctly. The person who came was my father's comrade in arms. When I asked the dorm leader to call the police, I deliberately had him mention my name. My father sacrificed his life to save others. When his teammates arrived, he was still holding the criminal tightly with his eyes wide open, but he had already lost his heartbeat. In my previous life, it was because of my father's identity that a special investigation team was sent to investigate. In this life, I must make use of it and get them involved from the very beginning. Who is Colin? Roommates, all step aside, exposing me. I was pinned against the door, unable to move, my face flushed red from holding my breath. what are you doing? Enforcing the law with violence. I recognized the person speaking. It was my dad's apprentice, Kevin. He used his hands like a blade, skillfully pushing the two apart, which finally freed me. Jenny wouldn't have it. She spread her arms to shield the two. This is assaulting an officer. You must be actors hired by Colin. With my hands untied, I shrugged helplessly. Yes, the ones you called are heroes. And the ones I called are actors. Then let's all go to the police station. Some people just won't give up until they've reached the Yellow River. I noticed the director quietly retreating into the crowd. I quickly called out, "Director, are you in a hurry to go eat?" Me, Jenny, the director, along with my roommate and the two police officers the director had mentioned, all got into the police car together. We were questioned separately. I explained the whole story and mentioned that I didn't even know her name before this. I slept on the lower bunk and hadn't even seen what she looked like. I asked the flight attendant, who questioned me, if they could testify that I was wearing earplugs and slept all the way until I got off. Seeing me come out of the interrogation room unscathed, Jenny immediately rushed over, grabbing my hair. "Did you bribe them?" She then turned and yelled at the police officers. "I came to the police station ready to die, and you just let the criminal walk away like that? Just because he's a police academy student, you're covering for him unconditionally." This last remark really upset everyone in the police station. I pushed her hand away. "How long are you going to keep this up? Whoever committed the crime against you, someone must have seen it. Why don't you just file a proper report and provide the information instead of fixating on me? Could it be that someone is behind this?" A female police officer also advised, "Ms. Jenny, we will bring the person who harmed you to justice. Please calm down. Colin is innocent. We've already verified this with the flight attendant." Despite the officer's diligent explanation, Jenny simply covered her ears, screaming, I won't listen. The culprit is Colin. None of you are listening to me. I'm telling the truth." Her frenzied appearance frightened everyone, and they immediately called 120. I frowned. "Are you out of your mind? Did you escape from a mental hospital?" The female police officer was still trying to comfort her, but it was no use. Until the police brought a man in, she weakly threw herself into his arms. This man was the so-called Prince of Beijing, who had forced himself on her on the train. Bob. When enemies meet, their eyes blaze with hatred. Dressed to the nines, he hugged Jenny with a careless, roguish smile. "What's going on? Don't be afraid, baby. I'm here to help you get even, aren't I?" The two of them stood together, with a 10-year age difference. Perhaps love is blind. Even though he was an old man, Jenny still found him attractive. Bob gave me a cold glance, and I knew he had murderous intentions. "Director, my girlfriend has suffered a great injustice. Don't you owe me an explanation?" He raised an eyebrow, while the middle-aged man who accompanied him smiled apologetically, his belly protruding. "I'll give you an explanation right away. How dare you let the suspect identified by the victim go without detaining him? What's going on here? Do none of you want to keep your jobs?" He got angry at his subordinates and had me arrested again. Such obvious flattery made the police turn pale with anger. The two who had been released rushed forward, and though I struggled, I was handcuffed again. They were indeed police officers, but only auxiliary police. And they were newcomers who had just started 2 days ago. They were very eager to please the chief. I concealed the hatred in my eyes and said to Bob, "Who are you? This is an open bribe." I knew he wouldn't care, but everyone present would be a witness to my wrongful accusation. Bob raised his hand and patted my face. "A bribe?" He leaned close to my ear. "Bob, don't need to. Who told you to be in that carriage? Just accept your bad luck. Bob's family is wealthy, so Jenny won't report him to the police. He didn't need to make me the scapegoat, but the failure lies in the fact that Bob didn't just force her that day. There was also Tina, the youngest daughter of the Smith family in Kyoto. This isn't something Bob can just get out of by pulling a few strings. The Smith family's influence is greater than the Johnson family's. It was too dark, and his blindness led him to do something that cost him his life. This matter was exposed after my death in my previous life, but I was already dead, so it was of no help to the me from that lifetime. In this life, I will firmly grasp this thread. The first step is to get the task force involved. The second step is to let the Smith family know, make Bob and even the entire Johnson family collapse. How can such scum deserve to enjoy anything? He should stay in the dirt forever, shamed and unable to lift his head in front of the world. I will personally shatter Jenny's beautiful dream. Is that all you've got? Weren't you the one who claimed to be innocent? You ruined me. Bob might not care, but I do. Jenny is like a peacock flaunting its feathers, always showing off how amazing she is. Chief, we can't do this." A police officer couldn't help but protest. "Once it happens once, it'll happen again." Everyone glared angrily at the two officers who arrested me. After Kevin brought me in, he was called away, otherwise he would probably have been the first to confront the director. The team leader rushed over, picked up his phone, and said, "I've recorded your actions. If Colin can't leave the police station today, I'll post it online and let everyone judge for themselves." The director ignored him and directly had me taken to the detention room, refusing to let me go back. Just like in my previous life, I was fired. And it was this director who arrested me. I was reported missing to the outside world. But in reality, I was imprisoned here. He kept it hidden from everyone else, and it wasn't until things had reached a point of no return that the task force found me. "I would never force Jenny. This is violent law enforcement. Aren't you afraid I'll sue you when I get out?" The chief took out a roll of tape and sealed my mouth shut. "Take him away." This time I was caught off guard. I didn't expect Bob to come so quickly. The Smiths hadn't even started investigating, and he exposed himself. It also put me in a passive position. The person holding me down kicked me and said, "Get in. Who dares to try?" Kevin kicked the two people behind me away. He was panting, clearly having rushed over in a hurry. His clothes were soaked with sweat. The chief seemed a bit intimidated at that moment. Kevin himself is a tough nut to crack. No one can leave unscathed in front of him. If you keep slandering him, Jenny, I won't mind calling your parents to see what you're really up to." Jenny was silenced by Kevin's words and lowered her head in fear. "Is this a guilty conscience?" Bob, still unaware of the consequences, stepped forward to slap Kevin, grabbed by Kevin and pinned with a reverse grip. It hurt so much that he cried out in pain. "Bob, is your father too idle?" Inside the police station, the long table was filled with people. Bob's father and Jenny's parents were seated at the front, facing his own son. Bob's father immediately kicked him. Although I knew it was just for show, I still secretly felt pleased. Serves him right. On the other side, Jenny's mother slapped her. I walked out of the police station feeling refreshed, leaving them to be lectured by Kevin. It just so happened to be a holiday today, so I rushed home by train. Finally, I saw my mom. This was our first meeting in this lifetime, and it felt like a lifetime had passed, in just a few years, after my father left. My mother worked hard to support my education and provide me with the best conditions, and her temples have turned gray. I held back my tears, rushed over, and hugged her. "Mom," her voice was as stern as ever, "how old are you? A man should stand tall and strong. Why are you still burying yourself in my arms?" My mother has always been very strict with my upbringing, especially under the influence of my father's profession. She constantly reminded me and instilled in me the belief that justice is everywhere, encouraging me to help others. It was because of this that, on the train, driven by passion and my mother's teachings, I rushed forward to save Jenny. But my mother didn't know that some people are simply demons from hell. The one I saved became the hand that pushed me into the abyss. My mom went to the kitchen to bring out my favorite dish. Although she speaks sternly, she has never deprived me of anything. While we were eating, the television suddenly cut to a news report. "Next, we are following Miss Jenny to the home of the person who harmed her." The scene shifted, and the camera showed the security guard at the entrance of my residential complex. "Hey, yes, Colin lives in our neighborhood. His father was a martyr and is a role model for all of us." The security guard kept praising my dad. Completely unaware of Jenny's livid expression, the reporters she brought along looked even more awkward. The live broadcast was still going on when my mom suddenly said, "Colin, there's someone else with the same name as you, and in our neighborhood too. What a coincidence." I tugged at the corner of my mouth but couldn't manage a smile. "No, not at all. It was completely premeditated." "Mom, there's no coincidence. The person she's talking about is me." Helplessly, I laid everything out on the table. My mom, just like in my previous life, completely believed me. If I had actually done something like that, I'm sure she would have personally sent me off to reunite with my dad. I also honestly explained what happened at school. My mom immediately called someone to check on Jenny. It seemed like she wanted to come straight to my house. In her previous life, she drove my mom to her death through the internet. In this life, she has no justification and can only rely on second-rate journalists to come to my house for interviews, deliberately raising suspicions. "Colin, get out here. You ruined my reputation. Do you think just because the police can't find evidence, you can get away with it?" She was shouting louder and louder at my doorstep. I knew how lively it was at the door even before I opened it. "Colin, come out. In this day and age, you can't be a heartless man." Wendy, who had been jealous of my family for a long time, joined in the shouting. At that moment, many women felt the same way and came to my doorstep. I took a deep breath and flung the door open. The noise buzzed incessantly. In my past life, they were my schoolmates. In this life, they were people from the neighborhood. Look at this, and they call it a martyr's family. I think they're just tasteless. Is his father really dead? But isn't he a police academy student? How could he? What does being a police academy student have to do with it? Bad seeds know how to hide. Grades don't filter character. These words swirled like a curse, dancing wildly in my mind. That's why, in my previous life, I ended up with nothing. I opened the door and gave Jenny an opportunity. Out of nowhere, a few people rushed over and surrounded me. Colin, you are suspected of involvement in a coercion case. Please come with us. Here we go again with this routine. Is it because you see me as isolated and easy to manipulate after I return home? Jenny, we made it clear at the police station. I never had any contact with you. The surveillance footage from the train is crystal clear. You said the police couldn't find evidence, but I was detained again and again by the people you sent. With all your influence, are you still afraid of not being able to find evidence? My words, unlike in my previous life, were not without persuasion. When I mentioned that I had been to the police station many times, someone finally stood by my side. It's the security guard, who angrily waves his hand to block the person approaching. Are you doing this on purpose? His father was a martyr. He lost his life saving others. Isn't this just heartbreaking? When danger comes, who will save you then? My mother stood silently behind me, holding my father's portrait. Some people shrank back in fear, while others began to avoid looking at me. In my previous life, everyone looked at me with disgust. I was like garbage. Wherever I went, they would cover their noses and say it stank. He spoke without restraint, saying that my father's death was faked, just to get me extra points for the college entrance exam and the death benefits. They gathered at the cemetery and went live, saying they were going to dig my father out of the ground. How could my mother bear it? She left a suicide note, ran to the cemetery, and killed herself by crashing into my father's grave on the spot. No one dares to touch my father's grave anymore. My mother made her resolve clear by choosing death. This is what allowed me to finally catch a breath. Locked inside, cut off from all news, I kept thinking about my mother. By the time I got out, I couldn't even find my mother's grave. Just thinking about this makes me feel incredibly exhausted. Who did I offend to end up with someone like Jenny? Who's like a piece of chewing gum that I just can't shake off? During my detention, I couldn't eat or drink, and the questions they asked me every day were always the same. Jenny and Bob were standing behind the glass. I was too slow. I haven't managed to get them all locked up yet. Wendy suddenly blurted out, who can guarantee that the martyr's son is a good person? A weak woman like her must have no other choice but to come forward. As soon as Jenny saw Wendy speaking up for her, she immediately grabbed her arm and said, "Exactly, he relies on his father's status as a martyr to do whatever he wants. Such scum should be locked up. His mother must compensate my family. My parents raised me with so much effort. I can't just let someone bully me like this. To put it bluntly, you just want my money. So greedy. One bob isn't enough, and you still want benefits from me." I looked at Jenny, suppressing the urge to lash out, and retorted, "Do you really want justice? Or do you want something that doesn't belong to you? Of course it's fair." I continued to ask, "Then you don't need compensation, right? You're so selfless. You definitely just want the criminal to rot in jail." Jenny snorted. "I can't let you off that easily," I sneered. "Then show me the evidence." "Without evidence, how can you cyberbully me? I can also call the police on you for disturbing public order and damaging my reputation. You just want money. It doesn't have to be me. It's just my bad luck to be in the same car as you." Jenny didn't expect me to expose her intentions right in front of the live stream. A fleeting sense of guilt was poorly hidden by her. She took out her phone. "Look, this is the evidence." I laughed. She actually took a picture of me while I was looking for a compartment on the train. "Since you're so eager to catch the culprit, I'll grant your wish." With that, a group of people approached in a grand procession. "Hello. We are the special task force sent to investigate the case of Jenny being coerced. Since all the parties involved are here, please come with us." Long before I returned, I specifically sought out Kevin. He took this matter very seriously and submitted an application, and as luck would have it, my mom called him, and he mentioned that the task force would be coming today. Jenny was dumbfounded. This time, I had truly dragged her into this mess, and there was no way she could escape. The task force was just observing. I was taken into the interrogation room. These past few days, the interrogation room has practically become my home. This time, just like in the previous life, they kept repeating the same questions. I said I didn't know, but they acted as if they didn't hear and continued questioning. I gave in and insisted that before Jenny approached me, I had no idea what she even looked like, just because I bought a ticket for the same train car as her. That shouldn't be enough to convict me, right? I didn't even hear any noise in the middle of the night. My earplugs were firmly in place. From noon until evening, I've been questioned no less than 100 times. From the very beginning, I explained in detail, but later I refused to answer. The task force has always been there, but due to procedures, I know this is a process I must endure, but why should I be treated this way? This should have been Bob's burden to bear. They started speaking softly to me, trying to persuade me. Colin, your father was a martyr. If you speak up now, we will be lenient. The consequences of you confessing voluntarily versus us finding out are completely different. Think about your mother. She's exhausted and overwhelmed outside because of you. The live stream has gone viral, and the situation is blowing up online. Your home is completely surrounded right now. How ridiculous. Trying to make me confess by threatening me with my mother, but my mother is not a weak person. She has her own independent thoughts and would never want to hold me back, let alone agree to me confessing because of this. The longer this case drags on, the better. The live stream was already uploaded online, and the Smith family will soon catch wind of it and come rushing. Then why worry about Bob? Why worry about not finding evidence? In my previous life, I was passively beaten black and blue. But this time I won't just stand by and do nothing. I smiled and said, I'm not guilty. You should know who's behind her. If you keep targeting me, be careful. The roof might catch fire. The task force entered, and suddenly I was facing 6 people, although my back was unconsciously breaking out in a cold sweat. But I have the confidence. I've already had someone notify the Smith family. You probably don't know that there was more than one person who went to find the train police on the train at that time. At that moment, a figure flashed before my eyes. After being shaken awake, the first person I saw was the train attendant, and the second was Tina standing outside the door with a cold expression. What did you say? Why didn't you mention something so important? One of the interrogators stood up and was about to come over to teach me a lesson. I looked at the task force and said meaningfully, just because you don't know, doesn't mean others don't know. The leader of the task force closed the notebook in hand and stood up. Miss Tina was the first to report the case, Jenny was the second, and Miss Tina is already outside. She wants to see you. My efforts were not in vain. The show has begun. Tina was brought here by Kevin. Bob didn't miss it either. He was still smiling smugly, unaware that he was about to face imprisonment. Tina took out her phone. Did you send this? It was a video of me holding my ID card, and my voice could be heard from the phone. I am reporting Bob under my real name. He forced himself on Jenny and another girl. As far as I know, the flight attendant at the time had evidence but was too afraid to report it due to threats from the Johnson family. In my previous life, Tina's brother had visited many people who were present at the time. No one dares to speak out, even if they have evidence. They are threatened by people arranged by Bob. When I filed the real name report, I released this video. A long time ago, when Jenny first approached me, someone anonymously sent this video to my email, but I didn't bring it out at the time. I don't dare to gamble. I'm afraid that once it's brought out, no one will ever notice how dark the Johnson family is. One instance of coercion can be easily resolved with money. What about the next time? Will it go even further than that? The person who gets hurt could be his sister, or it could be his daughter. I am unwilling to let such a person escape justice. Jenny disappointed me a bit, but my father taught me to hold my ground. He is a line I will never cross in my life. The video I reported came after Jenny brought people to my home to live stream. Things spiraled out of control, and this time, it wasn't me on the chopping block. It was the real culprit. I stepped forward and handed the USB drive to Kevin. My mother sent it for me. She's an excellent and independent person who always believes in me, unlike some people who drag innocent individuals down with their own innocence. Who knows, she might even repay kindness with ingratitude. I stared coldly at Jenny. She was terrified. When my voice came from Tina's phone, both she and Bob froze on the spot. The task force took out the handcuffs. Bob, you are suspected of 2 cases of coercion. Come with us. Jenny, you are suspected of perjury. The mother of your classmate Colin has filed a lawsuit against you in court. Come with us. Kevin patted my head. Good kid, you're truly your father's son. I smiled. Because I am my father's son, I have always believed that light will break through the clouds. I waited for this day, but it took me a lifetime. I don't want anyone else to end up like me. They might not have another lifetime. Tina delivered a devastating blow to Bob. no settlement, take him to court to the very end. The Smith family obtained evidence of the Johnson family's tax evasion and reported them in one fell swoop. In the ensuing panic, the Johnson family's stocks were shorted, and after they went bankrupt, the Smith family acquired them. They directly demolished and rebuilt it into a landfill. Even if Bob got out, he lost everything, and his father couldn't bear it and jumped off a building to his death. He has nothing left. Jenny's parents came to me, asking me to let her off this time. They started by saying, "You're a boy, you can just endure this and let it pass." Jenny was just confused for a moment. "Why are you being so harsh? Just endure it and let it pass," I retorted. "Then you endure it, Jenny will be released, everything will pass. There's no need to communicate with such people, we're not even on the same wavelength." Many years later, I graduated and successfully became Kevin's apprentice. Only then did I find out that Bob had moved into Jenny's house. He felt that Jenny had ruined him and refused to leave. How Jenny treated me back then, he's just as clingy to her now. It's like a dog biting a dog, both ending up with a mouthful of fur. My mother enjoys her retirement, often going to my father's grave to say bad things about me. Everything has changed, everything has gotten better. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section, looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.